Okay, guys and gals, we are going to start putting our degrees and radians on a unit circle. Now, I have drawn 2 unit circles here. I've also downloaded a blank unit circle. So that way, if you wanted to print it out, if you have access to a printer, then you can print it out. If you do not have access to a printer, that is fine. Just hand draw the X and Y axis and then draw a circle. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do degrees. And if you notice, I go ahead and I'll label the X and the Y. And then I have 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, 270, and then 360. So this is all mandatory whenever you start labeling the unit circle. Now, if I was to measure this tick mark between 0 and 90 degrees, what is halfway between 0 and 90 degrees? That is right, 45 degrees. So we're going to put 45 degrees. Then if I go between 90 and 180, what is halfway between? Well, I simply just add 45 and 90, and I'm going to get 135 degrees. So I'm adding each angle, of course, is 45 degrees all the way around. So 180 plus 45 is 225. That is right. 225 plus 45 is 270. 270 plus 45 is 315, and then I end up with 360. All right, now for radians, okay, we know, we've already learned that 180 degrees is equal to pi. So we know that's pi over here. And then we also know that 360 degrees is 2 pi. We've already learned that. Okay, now let's do a little bit of common sense. So this is 0. All right, so from 0 to pi, this is from 0, 1 pi. There's a 1 understood to be in front of that. We already know that with algebra. Okay, so if halfway between 0 and 180 is 90 degrees, what do you think is halfway between 0 and pi? Simply pi over 2. Now, we know how to manually do the conversions by 180 over pi or pi over 180. We've already learned how to manually do the conversions, but this is where it all makes sense on the unit circle, okay? Now, so here, if I'm going from 1 pi to 2 pi, what's halfway between 1 and 2? 1 and 1/2. So that's going to be 3 pi over 2. So 270 is 3 pi over 2. So with that being said, if you notice, so I have 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi, which gives me the full circle. Okay, now from 0 to 1 pi, I have 4 slices. So therefore, what do you think 45 degrees is going to be? 1 pi over 4. That's how you get pi over 4. Now, if you need to prove that, then go back to your conversions and convert 45 degrees to radians, and you're going to see that it's 1 pi. Okay, 90 degrees is really 2 pi over 4, which that's how it reduces to pi over 2. Okay, so what do you think 135 degrees is going to be? You got 1, you got 2, that's right, 3 pi over 4. And then you have 4 over 4, which reduces to 1. So that's how they get all their conversions, okay? So 225 degrees is going to be 5 pi over 4. Then you have 6 pi over 4, which 6 pi over 4, and I'll write it right here, reduces to 3 pi over 2. And then 315 is going to be 7 pi over 4, because you have 7 slices. And then 360 is 8 pi over 4, which reduces to 2 pi. So that is how they get their conversions all lined up. But you can manually do that. But that's the reasoning behind it. I have a total of 8 slices. If I was to actually draw the lines out, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But you don't need to do that. I just do the tick marks to save time, and it makes it look neater because y'all know that I can't draw. All right, so that's 45 degrees. Okay, and we're going to be coming back to this in the upcoming weeks. Now, next, we know that there's more to it than this. We're going to have 30 and 60. So going back to the trig, we know that there are special triangles, 45 degrees, 30 and 60 degree triangles, okay? Because this, I'm kind of jumping the gun. If you notice, that makes a triangle right here. Don't worry, that's another lesson, okay? But this is where it all comes into play. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next circle, and I'm going to show you the 30, 60, 90. So if you notice that here, I'm going to have 1, 2, 3. We know that 90 degrees is pi over 2. We already know that 180 degrees is pi. 270 is 3 pi over 2. And we know that 360 is 2 pi. Okay? Now, if you notice on this unit circle, I've got 2 tick marks between 0 and 90 degrees. Okay, so there's going to be a total of 3 slices. So, a total of 6 between 0 and pi, but I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. So let's go ahead from here to here is 30 degrees. And so I'm cutting everything, I'm measuring everything in my circle now by 30 degrees. So if I add 30 more degrees, what do I get? 60 degrees. If I add 30 more, I get 90. Okay, so I'm adding 30 every time to each of my degrees. So that means that this is going to be 120 degrees. My next one's going to be 240, 180. Then from 180 plus, I'm sorry, not 240. Lord help me, 150. My bad, y'all. I caught myself because I was kind of jumping the gun a little bit. All right, so I have 150. Let's make that prettier. All right, so 180 plus 30 is 210. All right, so everybody knows 120, 150, 180, 210. 210 plus 30 is 240. This is where I'm jumping ahead in my mind. 240 plus 30 is 270. And then 300. And then 300 plus 30 is 330. And then give me the 360. Okay, so here is the unit circle panned out, dividing it equally by 30 degrees. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the measurements of in radians with 30 degrees. Okay, so I have 6 slices between 0 and actually pi. So my first slice is 1 pi, which is 1 over 6, not 1 pi. Pi over 6. So 30 degrees, if you need to manually prove that, then you can go over to the side and do your conversions. But I promise you, it's 1 pi over 6. Now 60 degrees is my second piece. So that's 2 pi over 6. I'm going to write it up here because that reduces to pi over 3. So 60 degrees is pi over 3. 90 degrees is 3 pi over 6, which we already know reduces to pi over 2. So therefore, 120 is 4 pi over 6, which that's going to reduce to 2 pi over 3. And then 150 is 5 pi over 6. And then pi is 6 over 6, which is 1. Okay, so then you have 210, which we're now on our 7th piece, so 7 pi over 6. Then you got 240, which is 4 pi over 3. 270, 3 pi over 2, we already know that. 330 is 5 pi over 3. And then 300 is 5 pi over 3. And 330 is 11 pi over 6. Okay, so here is all of our 30s and 60s with the conversions of in radians. Okay, so please go back if you need to go back and follow me back through this again, so that way you know this. Now on our third circle, I've already kind of completed it for you. You have the X and the Y, and I have 0 degrees all the way to 360. So I have 30, 45, 60, 90, 120, 135, 150, 180, and so forth. Okay, then I went back and I completed and put my radians here. Okay, this is what you're going to have memorized. We're going to add to it. We're going to put some points out here, but right now you need to make flashcards of putting degrees on one side, the radians on the other, because I need to ask you, what is pi over 2? You need to be able to tell me 90 degrees. Okay, so start working on that. And I hope you have a great day, and feel free to email me if you have any questions. Okay, talk to you later. I miss you guys so much in class. Have a great day. Bye-bye.